Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you very much for joining me and all your friends here. Um, and most importantly, giving our attention and intention in understanding and knowing the Buddha nature that which every other sentient being has. And we are able to recognize, remember that we have a completely different way of dealing with everyone, and so therefore it's amazingly useful. So we will first do the prayers, which is to remind ourselves the refuge, the notion of how much safer and better we can be when we remember the good and the best and the gem and the triple gem and valid gem. That doesn't go off. That doesn't have some ownership of others that we do not have access to. So therefore, renewing our awareness of the refuge in the triple gem very much is an integral part of knowing Buddha nature. So therefore, we will be inclusive of all the other people in the world. Many are living in incredible difficult situations, in the war and famine and starvation and natural disasters, the earthquake, and fighting and conflicts and anger and mutually destructive litigation and incredible things human beings do to each other. So sad, and we really wish they get their mind back and not resort to such childish way. And we pray and we meditate for whatever little influence we can make in our area or our unit of existence. We will be kind, we will be compassionate, we will be patient, we will be forgiving. We'll remember things are all impermanent. We don't need to change anyone. It will change everyone by the very nature of things. Then we are truly taking refuge. One who remembers the impermanence, remembers the Buddha, practices the Dharma, and becomes the Sangha. So we need anyone who reminds us the teaching, who remembers the teaching. It greatly helps every single people who comes in contact. So with that in mind, radiate your thoughts, prayer, and bodhicitta altruism with which we say these prayers. And recently there have been a lot of tragedies, or the earthquakes in the neighbor in Indonesia, we just heard. And someone from Queensland told me that her daughter's best friend, 11-year-old, commits suicide. And so there are so many difficult situations. Think of them inclusively in our prayers. Thank you. Oyenda Buddha Dhamma Asanga Atere Pete Ladama Bhavaja Ayevendala Ajare Buddha Uduebi and the Buddha Dharma Asanga Vajra 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 Buddha Buddha and the Buddha Dhamma Asanga Vajra 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 Buddha Buddha happiness and the cause of happiness, may they be free from suffering, and the cause of suffering, may they never part from the happiness that knows no suffering, may they dwell equanimity, free from judgment and aversion to those near and far. May hope is happiness and the cause of happiness, may they be free from suffering, and the cause of suffering, may they never part from the happiness that knows no suffering, may they dwell equanimity, free from judgment and aversion to those near and far. May hope is happiness and the cause of happiness, may they be free from suffering, and the cause of suffering, may they never part from the happiness that knows no suffering, may they dwell equanimity, free from judgment and aversion to those near and far, according to the intelligence and predisposition of it, where the Yatanda Dharma Agrelo and come Virgo. a very famous Buddhist textbook called Uttaratantra, monastic university. Asanga, by today's geography, is from Pakistan. So we should be grateful to Pakistanis. Buddha, those days, I don't think Pakistan was only formed in 1947. So prior to that, Pakistan was part of Arya Desha, part of the Holy Land. It still is, because Peshawar is a very special city, and then Srinagar is very famous. Srinagar is where our author translated this text. So Kashmir is very important ancient Buddhist history. Produced many people like Vasubandhu and Kashmiri Pandita Shakyeshwari and so on. So Dharma is very much has soaked the whole Asian subcontinent, and some of the legacy of those great Buddhist scholars are writings such as Uttaratantra. In Tibetan Buddhism, this text is one of the 18 most important textbooks studied by all the scholars and monastics. And so we had the good fortune to be doing this study together. All of you have been very diligent, and so which is helping me to be motivated to do a little bit of prior preparation. But otherwise, I'm just as a student, very sloppy student, lazy student. These days there's so much material, so you can't excuse saying I don't have the text. I don't know where it is. Nobody lent me the text. I remember when we heard this, or I received this transmission of this text in Lumbini in 1975 from Kempo Kedrup. We didn't have a text, We didn't have a single text. We just have to go and look up the only copy of the Tengyur in the monastery. We have to see where it was, find that in a volume, and then dig out, and then he can teach us. Otherwise, there wasn't any single book itself being published like that. It was very rare. Nowadays, they're available, readily available. You just can airdrop them. You can just there's PDFs everywhere. I've been good for me. As I said, I have tried to. I've finished the draft translation of the root text, so which everyone has, and so I intend to make it available for our Tibetan young monastics who are learning English. So make it bilingual together. So it will be a very good thing. Anyway, so we have to come through the whole text, and this has 7 Vajra points, and of this we are currently looking at the last Vajra points, which is the Buddha activities, enlightened activities of the Buddha. Of course, we have Buddha gem, Dharma gem, Sangha gem. Those are the first 3 Vajra points, and the 4th one is Buddha nature. And then 5th one is the enlightenment, Buddhahood. And the 6th one is qualities of the Buddhahood. And the 7th is the activities, the legacy, the amazing consequences of the Buddha's enlightenment has rippled down through us, through our life, and so the Buddha activity. So we have finished up until verse number 365, 64 rather, talking about the 9 analogies of the Buddha activities. So now we're going to sort of wrap up this particular section tonight. So this one is the coherent meaning of the analogies. How to make the analogies not just nice analogy, but how to make it coherent to elucidate the meanings that this text is trying to show. So of the 9, the manifestation like appearance of Indra's jewel, because the analogy was the Indra's manifestation in the world. Likewise, Buddha activity is incessantly manifesting in the world. And because Buddha's appearance in the world, even though he did his appearance in the world, say like a 540 BC, but his appearance and his consequences, his appearance has not stopped. Even though he passed away in nirvana, his passing away is not a death. His passing is a mahaparinirvana. His passing away has continued to pulsate his manifestation. Like you see the Buddha image before, somewhere in your living room or somewhere or here in the shrine, the Buddha image, probably millions and millions of them, small, big, huge, everywhere. Every one of the Buddha's manifestation is like the gem that doesn't leave this world. It's just like the Indra is seen as very important by those people who believe, like the Hindus. Likewise, the very manifestation of the Buddha is always present in our life. Buddha is present in your life because of his manifestation. If Buddha were not teaching of the compassion and kindness and non-violence, all of these things he has boosted the importance of these special values because of his coming to the world. So that's the first coherent meaning of the Buddha's manifestation. That's the coherent meaning of his body. Second is that his physical manifestation rings the sound of divine drum of perfect instruction. So this is analogy is using the divine drum. It is said that in the desire realm there is one drum that constantly is echoing the beat of the Dharma. So they're saying all things are impermanent and there is no true self, and nirvana is peace, and all afflictions are the cause of suffering. This kind of very, very pertinent phrases of the Dharma is constantly drummed in the world, in the world of the gods. Likewise, ever since you and I have heard certain drums or certain, I would say, phrases of Dharma, they have never left our eardrums. They have completely influenced your outlook to life. And that beautiful, elegant sayings of the Buddha is never tired of listening again, reading again. It is constantly the most worthiest music there ever is. That our reason of not being deaf has been useful. Therefore, because otherwise there are lots of things you shouldn't be listening at all. So therefore, the Buddha's speech, the speech of the Buddha, the sayings of the Buddha, Buddha Vajra, sayings of the Buddha, beautiful melody of those who are lost, those who are confused, those who are sad, those who feel lonely. Anyone who read a small passage of the Dhammapada or quotation here and there, they always will wake up from the slumber of sadness and depression and confusion, because that sound is like a divine drum. Everybody can hear this. There's always an instruction that is pertinent to your life's misery. It is not some instructions is to him and not to others. It's a recipe for everyone. Usually every single patient you receive is a doctor receive different prescription. Buddha's Dharma is a panacea for all quarrels and problems in life. So therefore, it's the perfect of all perfect instructions. Whenever you listen to Dharma, there's always a poignant instruction that you will need to pay heed to, and all of a sudden you couldn't believe how relevant it is to your situation. Whether it's someone else that you think is a problem or whatever it is, you will be able to look at it with amazing pithy instruction that is there for you. Like you can't deny when the drum is struck. Likewise, you can't deny the truthfulness of Dharma is so. This is the incessant Buddha activity. Buddha has never stopped. People say, oh, Buddha taught this at Saranath, that at Sravasti, this one, he didn't teach this one over there. I feel so sad. What the hell are they talking about? They're talking about history, I think. The history of the 2 years. They always try to measure what Buddha taught, where and what. And they even try to say the Buddha only taught in Pali or the Buddha only taught in Sanskrit. Come on, give me a break. You have no idea of Buddha legacy. You have no idea Buddha is able to speak in the language of the gods, the Gandharvas, humans, everyone, and you think he only spoke to Magadhan kingdom's language and never anything. These kind of Buddhist modern scholars are trying to nitpick and do nothing but try to have a little chair in the university. They know nothing about real Buddha's qualities because they don't have real devotion to the Buddha. They have never heard the actual Buddha legacy. They're only studying it as a subject of or scientific or philological interest, maybe historical interest, or maybe other. Because they even argue, try to say that Buddha never taught in Sanskrit, Buddha never taught Mahayana, Buddha never taught Vajra, staying like that. That definitely shows that they never heard the real drum. Couple of books they have buried their head in is probably where the position they got, but they actually don't know what the actual the expanse of the Buddha's enlightened activity is. So, therefore, it says here, that rings the sound of the divine drum of perfect instructions. There's instruction for everyone, those who pay heed to it. So it's very, very coherent meaning. And when it is said that when the divine drum is struck in the desire realm, everybody in the Deva realm hears it. There's nobody who doesn't hear it. Likewise, the Buddha's legacy of his truth of the teachings is so. We usually liken to the conch shell. We usually use the conch shell. If you play the conch shell among other orchestra, among other many musical instruments, it says that you may sometimes not hear any of the other distinct instruments. You just hear the orchestra of all. But if the conch is blown among all the other music instruments, they say conch shell sound would be heard distinctively. Like that Buddha's sound, Buddha's Dharma is always very clear sound. It is soothing music to everyone. It's music to everyone's ear. That's the legacy of Buddha's speech. That's the really second coherent meaning. And then it says, that instruction which saturate the universal clouds of perfect knowledge and great compassion. Now, this is the quality of the Buddha's mind. The mind of the Buddha, with which he sounded the great divine drum, saturate, meaning that it completely soaks everyone, all sentient beings. Because Buddha's compassion is likened to the clouds. Big cloud. The clouds are so big that there is not a single area in the valley or in the land where the rain didn't soak it. Likewise, the downpour of the rain of the Buddha's compassion, his compassion is like great, like the cloud, and the cloud is so big that every piece of the cloud become rain, and every drop drops from the summit of the universe down to the lowest level of hell, and this water of compassion saturate everywhere, due to his omniscient mind and great compassion. And it touches and influences to limitless sentient beings up to the summit of existence. So there is not a single sentient being who is not affected by Buddha. Even say maybe Buddha Dharma did not quite spread, say in 7th century, 8th century in Australia. I don't know. I'm not saying that it didn't, but it is soaking now. The water is soaking now, and it's very dry here anyway. This year we had a lot of rain, so there's a lot of so the flood is there, but Dharma is much more. It is soaking everyone. In the time of great crisis, of pain, of sorrow, if people can hear the Dharma, and there's not a single part from the top of the universe, which the summit of the universe, where the Indra and the Brahma lives, down through all the ranges of the Mount Sumeru, as well as the highest peak, like the highest peak of the ranges on Earth, because Mount Everest is just a small nipple according to the Mount Sumeru. It's very small. Everywhere the water has touched. That's the Buddha's mind, quality of mind, coherent meaning of Buddha's compassion. Of the Buddha's body and speech is the teaching, and his teaching is caused by the condensation of his compassion, which is like a cloud, and the cloud causes rain. And who touches the clouds? The water affects all limitless sentient beings. So thirsty, and everybody is so thirsty, and they couldn't get a decent drink. They drink so many kinds of bottled things, but still remain very thirsty. Wait until they get to drink the drop of the truth of the Dharma. And then they realize how much sustenance, how much a thirst quencher the Dharma is. And that is the legacy of the Buddha activities of the omniscient mind. So that's the meaning of the verse number 365. Now it goes to elaborate, like Brahma, while remaining immutable in their contaminated state, they manifest many superb emanations. So this talking about the fully enlightened Buddha may have come as a historical Buddha and passed away into Nirvana and Kusinaga, but he has emanated. His emanation of what we call Nirmanakaya, aspect of birth Nirmanakaya, countless great Mahapanditas in India, great Mahasiddhas in India, as well as the great lineage gurus in Tibet and various parts of the Asian subcontinent. There were quite a lot of them, were all deliberate manifestation of the Buddha himself, and that's why we enjoy the presence of likes of His Holiness Dalai Lama and many great lineage masters. They are all basically the foot soldiers of the Buddha activities. And without their presence of such commitment, such dedication, such a discipline of likes of them, how could we ensure the existence of Dharma? So therefore, Buddha activity is remaining immutable. It's totally unaffected by the they are always remaining in an uncontaminated state, meaning not tainted by the worldly dharmas, 8 worldly dharmas, and therefore uncontaminated. They manifest superb manifestations. They appear whatever is appropriate manifestation, avatar, avatar, to tame and affect and influence the sentient beings according to the time. Like, how can you imagine, like someone like His Holiness Dalai Lama, and it's fair enough to him to be inspiring to the Tibetan or Buddhist, but no, he's completely broke all the boundaries. He's just revered, the most revered spiritual person in the whole world. Why? Because he is basically none other than the Buddha activities manifesting in the world through his bodhisattvic qualities and the superb manifestations called. It's you couldn't have in Tibet, which we took a great liberty to look for the 14 Dalai Lama, all the way up and down. They were shortlisted, and they had to pay millions of dollars to Qinghai, or that whatever that part was, which was under China. We basically have to buy the boy. We basically have to pay so much to get him, and we didn't waste a single penny for that, And otherwise, we wouldn't have a great champion of peace and a great living master like him. He is superb in his view, in his teaching, and how he promotes humanity and oneness of the world as a one family. Without emphasizing people to become Buddhists and all of that. He just cut through all of those things, but promote oneness of humanity and sentient beings. Like the sun, they radiate universally the light of illumination, because sun is the analogy here. Like the sun gives so much radiation, you wouldn't believe so many solar energies put. No matter how many solar energies would put, the sun energy is never exhausting. Not yet anyway. Likewise, the Buddha's qualities, enlightened activity, radiate so much light to illuminate illumination of the wisdom, which is most important wisdom. There's a lot of education, a lot of knowledge, but no wisdom. But where Dharma is coming through the activities, great beings like bodhisattvas, emanations. I'm not limiting these just to His Holiness Dalai Lama, by the way. There are amazing arhats, monks in Burma, in Sri Lanka, in Thailand, and you wouldn't believe some of the lay people where they keep the Dharma are so inspiring. How the tradition, they put so much care and dedication, and they definitely are no ordinary people. They must have prayed so many lifetimes to be worthy of their incarnation, so as to outreach the Dharma to so many places and people, where the world has so much things, but so much decadence, so much greed, and so much us versus them, and division. But we have many manifestation of the Dharma, like a wish-fulfilling gem. The Dharma is so well loved and well studied and respected by many. Some people don't know how to teach Dharma at all. And like me, you don't really know how to teach, but still got some usefulness to their life. Their life is meaningful to live. There's worthy of feeding some rice and dal, because otherwise, why feed these people? They're not adding any good to the world. But some goodness of humanity, and all of these things are illuminated, and therefore, it's enabling people to discover the magical, pure gem of their mind. Because everybody is made to realize their Buddha nature. They all have wish-fulfilling gem like perfectly pure mind. That if their mind is currently deluded temporarily, that's only temporary. You can really shift around, and your mind will be completely changed. And that kind of a positivity, that you are not some result of someone's original sin or something, Rather, you are pregnant with the right Buddha nature. You just have to give birth to it, and so therefore we are already expectant mothers of Buddhahood. So therefore that we all have our mind completely possible to purify our temporary bad thoughts, and therefore we will bring illumination and light in the mind of everyone. The victor's speech, like echo, is devoid of written letter. So meaning the Buddha Dharma for many years was there. Buddha himself never wrote a single word, so he didn't write. He just spoke one word, that was enough. Whatever people heard became the pearl of the wisdom, they call it. A written text did not happen for a good 500 years until 2nd century AD. Prior to that, everything was committed to memory. And therefore, they call Shravakas. Shravakas means hearers, and hearers and tellers. I translate the word Shravakas and hearers and tellers, I think hearers is not enough. Tibetan word for Shravakas is third drok, Third means heard, drok means telling. So hearers and tellers. So all the ancient Mahastaviras, monks, whether they reach Arhat or not, they were hearers and tellers. They told exactly what they heard from the mouth of the Buddha, and then these people told to the next generation and next generation, and by sheer devotion to the word of the Buddha, oral lineage of the Buddha, then people remembered the teachings. So there was no written text for a long time. There was all these amazing practitioners who listened to the teaching with great care and retention and dedication. They remember every word for word. So that's why they call Buddha Vachanas. Buddha Vachanas are Buddha's speech, Victor's speech, like an echo of devoid of written letter. Yeah, Buddha's teachings are not in written words in those days. Then later on, in fear of losing, because then people were not becoming arhat as frequently as those days, and so they're afraid they will lose the memory. And then slowly, about 2nd century onwards, if not before, they were committed to writing a letter, and but when because what they're writing is word of the Buddha, therefore they wrote in gold, they wrote in silver, they wrote in powdered semi-precious stones and handmade papers. You can see those scriptures in Tibet and Mongolia and I think in Qinghai and China and some. You will see those texts written in solid gold powder and silver, and one line is gold, one line is silver, because they think they are all pearl of wisdom of the Buddha. And they were not written before. They were all orally transmitted. That's why we give so much importance receiving oral transmission. The agama, we call it, or lung in Tibetan. So that you have to have heard from the mouth of one who heard from his teacher, and then believing that that warm breath of the oral tradition came from the Buddha, and then from likes of Ananda, Kashyapa, Upali, Upagupta, you name it. All of them were Shravakas. They were hearers and tellers. And I'm not talking about tellers at the woolies, okay? Here, I'm not tellers of the bank here, okay? I'm tellers of those who are telling the stories, the avadanas, the stories of the Jatakamalas and the Dhammapadas, and every single word. Most of them remember not only word for word, they know all the stories, because they enjoy so much just to listen to the victor's speech. The victor's speech is very very audible, very sensible, and once people have heard once, they need not to look and text. They can remember it. It's so precious, So they are so powerful. It doesn't become like an engraving on the rock. It doesn't disappear. If you heard the Dhamma once, you will not forget those poignant meanings. Formless and permanent, their body is like space. So this is talking about the Buddha's, Rupa. Buddha's. We were talking before about 3 kayas. Yeah, Dharmakaya is formless. The secrecy of the Buddha's body is it is not kind of obstructable forms. Obstructable form, it's like space. Buddha is like the space. Wherever there is space, there the Buddha body, Buddha's unobstructed form is there. So that's what it says. Formless and permanent, their body is like a space. There is not a single place where the space has not pervaded. Therefore, in Buddhism, we say you don't have, when we say do the invocation of Buddha, we don't say we are invoking Buddha from South India or some far places, that'll take a while. I think there are no Wi-Fi and so on. I don't know whether Buddha's got a Wi-Fi or not. No. Wherever there is space, there Buddha himself exists. We call natural abode. Buddha's holy presence exists everywhere. And their body is like a space. So when you have faith, Dharmakaya Buddha is everywhere, all pervading, and like the earth, the state of Buddhahood is universal ground for the medicinal herbs or virtues of sentient beings. Yeah, that's right. So it is the analogy here is that everything that we have in life, that we are growing like herbs, we are growing herbs on the very pristine environment, because every one of our mind is the fertile ground to grow the medicinal herb of the virtues. Maybe practicing kindness, speaking gently and tenderly with loving kindness and compassion. When you do that, you wouldn't believe how people are changing. You can have a herb treatment, but people speak to you kind is probably much better than always needing a herbalist around you. What's the point of having herbalist who doesn't speak nice things? So it's talking about how the individual who has a Buddha nature are all saturated by the qualities, because wherever there's earth, there the space permeate. Wherever there's space, there the herb of the dharma of the virtues of qualities, sentient beings, all saturated. So this is talking about how coherent the meanings of the analogies are. So that's that section. Then we move on to giving up doubt and explain the coherent meaning, because sometimes you can put these analogies, but people can have doubt about even though the Buddha is devoid of arisings, destruction, and abiding, but still it appears Buddha did come and Buddha did disappear. Even though they say Buddha activities is effortless, but it seems the Buddha activity is now finished because we don't really see the Buddha. Some people may say that. So this is the doubt, yeah. This is the doubt. So this doubt will be now dealt with by this next verse. It says, the cause of seeing Buddha in the pure mind, comparable to pure lapis lazuli, is the development of a irreversible energy of faith. So meaning that the more doubt people have and ask very good questions, doubt is not independently wrong. Doubt, when it is handled very well, become cause of doubtless faith. So therefore, every virtuous initiative can be met with some obstacles, if you ask very, 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 very tricky questions, you probably would get very good answers, So your doubts will always be allayed, and so the faith and the pure mind in being able to see the point of what Buddha is saying, how relevant they are, and how precious it is, like a lapis lazuli. Here is talking about lapis lazuli is a very special, precious stone, but lapis lazuli is not easily floating around on the road or on park. Lapis lazuli have to be mined from among non-lapis lazuli like rocks. So like that, so we have to remove those non-lapis lazulis, and then we have to be able to extract the lapis lazuli. Likewise, any hindering obstacles or doubts that we might have, and they can all be removed by obtaining a irreversible energy of faith. The irreversible faith energy refers to the three types of faith in Buddhism. It talks about the lucid faith and aspirational faith and tested faith. So at the very beginning we might have a little lucidity in knowing what it is, but then later on we aspire that to acquire ourselves, and as if it's something else out there we are inspired and we want and we want to attain that. Later on it's a tested faith. When it's tested faith is in the Dharma is then you have validated through your experience how true and incontrovertible the teachings are. Then your faith will not be lost. Your faith in the Dharma is different from your faith in people. Buddha said, have faith in the Dharma, not in people. Because Dharma is the true. It is the true realization of the Buddha. And therefore it's worthy of testing. The more doubt you have, even if you have doubt, those doubt are useful doubt, Those were useful doubt, People say the benefit of doubt, The benefit of doubt means the doubt has to be attested. The result of the attestation of the doubt will make you to gain an faith that is irreversible. So therefore one will slowly give up the doubts, and therefore the meaning of this analogy become more coherent as we progress along the path. So now to elucidate that. Since the virtue appears and disappears, the forms of Buddhas also appear and disappear. This is the kind of it's talking about the ordinary person's perception. Says, oh, Buddha appeared, but he showed miracles, or he taught these wonderful things, but now he's not there. Buddha is dead, or whatever people may say that Buddha disappears, and so he appeared. Maybe it was wonderful stories or what, but now he's not there, so he's no longer like God. Some people say that. I've met some Christians saying Buddha is great, but now he's dead. It's which is ridiculous, so sad. They think that Buddha is just like a person who was born and who's dead, and now he can't do anything. So such doubt appears. However, like Indra, Dharmakaya of the great sage is free of arising and distraction. So therefore the actual Dharmakaya is never necessary to create, appear and disappear. Actual Dharmakaya is like the sky. It is universally there. It does not disappear. In a way, likewise, effortlessly, from Dharmakaya free of birth and death, for as long as there is existence, he engages in activities such as manifestation. So it means the Buddha activity is constant. It is actual appearance of the Buddha himself is only historically in a particular place and time, but his very activity of the Buddha is constantly there. So it is not something that came and disappeared. The Buddha legacy, because this whole seventh chapter is the Buddha activity being immortal and in affecting people like you and me, And if Buddha passed away and his qualities, his enlightened activities have no legacy, then we wouldn't benefit from Dharma at all. But the enlightened quality Buddha is he still engages. The sky is always there. There's no time the sky comes and takes a break. Likewise, the Buddha activities is always there. Yeah. So now, those 9 analogies when we went through, because they have a particular sequence, now the order is superior than the analogies themselves. The order in which the Buddhist teachings are usually given are not random. They are given deliberately. So therefore, the analogy may be very elucidatingly useful, but it says the order is even more superior than the analogies themselves. So here a summary of meaning of the analogies is taught in a structured order where dissimilarities are eliminated from the former to the latter. So this is talking about the function of the structure of the order of the structure and order of the analogies, because we might think they are dissimilar or whatever. but all will be eliminated. Once you know the order is even more important than the analogy itself. For instance, it says the first of the analogy, Buddha is like the reflection. So when we say the Buddha is like a reflection of the Brahma or appearing in the sky and people can see, but it's not the same without melody. Yeah. So, but without the melody of the Buddha's speech, it comes after the manifestation. So therefore, if the melody is lacking, even though Buddha appears, the reflection has no melody. So therefore, it is not that this one is the melody having discussed. Talking about the existence of the melody as well as the reflection is more meaningful, because the melody mentioning existence with the Buddha image, therefore it's much more superior. He is unlike the celestial drum that does not have any function anywhere else. Yeah, the divine drums got some sounding, maybe in the divine drum they can hear it, but we can't hear it. We can't hear the divine drum. It's got very poor range, It's got a very poor range, like a poor Wi-Fi, not so good Wi-Fi, The divine drum sound is only audible to the divine gods, but not here. But that's not the case. So therefore, the sequence of the reflection and the analogy of the divine drum to the melody of the Buddha's speech is therefore surpasses the actual analogy. Actual analogy is divine drum, but the talking about the melody of the Buddha's speech is far more superior than the analogy, the divine drum itself, that is struck in the realm of Indra to the benefit of all the gods. He's unlike the vast cloud that does not remove useless seeds. The clouds can cause rain and pour water or wherever, but it doesn't really separate the good seed from the bad seeds. But he is unlike the Mahabrahma. So therefore, Buddha's compassion, like it has been likened to the clouds, he actually ripens all sentient beings. There is no sentient being who's useless. All sentient beings are made to be useful because all sentient beings have the Buddha nature. So there is no useless seeds. And unlike Mahabrahma, he does not engender eternal maturation. So this is talking about the Mahabrahma has a little bit of bias, But Buddha's, how it caused the maturation of all sentient beings are matured. Because who does not engender eternal maturation. The Mahabrahma cannot completely liberate all sentient beings. They may cause others to become more devotee of the Brahma and stay within the samsara, but they cannot actually cause the maturation of the sentient beings. Whereas the Buddha, whose saturation of the compassion and the great wisdom, the knowledge, causes the soil of the earth to be completely saturated, and there's not a single sentient being who are left unmatured. So everybody will be ultimately cause the maturation. He's unlike the form of the sun. So because sun is the analogy, but that cannot vanquish darkness forever. The sun can not vanquish the darkness forever. So Buddha actually can illuminate all the darkness, and particularly darkness in relation to the suffering of, not just suffering of change, but suffering of all pervasive conditioning. People mainly enshrouded in this darkness that they don't know that is darkness. They don't realize the suffering that they are complaining about caused by their grasping to thinking the aggregate is self, and the feelings are self, and they are real, and they're permanent, and these kind of cognitive obscurations cognitive obscuration, the real darkness, The sun does not vanquish the darkness of the mind. Sun can only illuminate dispel the darkness in the houses, in the caves, in the valleys, from the night, but it does not eliminate, dispel the darkness of the mind or emotions and cognitive obscuration. He is unlike the wish-fulfilling gem, that its appearance is not that difficult to encounter, So therefore, the wish-fulfilling gem, is considered to be rare to occur, but is saying that the analogy of the Buddha being wish-fulfilling gem doesn't mean that its appearance is only easy to encounter by some and not to. Eventually, the Buddha legacy will be ripening and benefiting all sentient beings without any discrimination. This is what really saying how the meaning itself is the meaning and order of the teaching is far more superior than the analogies themselves. He's like an echo that it arises through causes and conditions. And so it says even the Buddha activity is there, but Buddha activity is not some one-sided, that he does everything for everyone. People have to create their own causes and conditions. He is unlike the space that is not the basis of goodness, So, why space is great, but the Buddha activity is even more greater, because anyone who understands the Buddha activity, they are learning to pick up certain features or qualities and characteristics of enlightened ones. So therefore, one who get to know the Buddha, it is the basis of the goodness for the persons themselves to be generating. So this shows that the analogy, the order in which these things are given are far more superior than the analogy. Of course, analogy themselves has a function. So therefore, he is like the mandala of earth, the foundation and ground of all perfect conditions for sentient beings in mundane or supermundane. So this is showing how the Buddha activities is the basis of all. It is from the supermundane path from which originate Buddha's enlightenment, the path and virtuous acts. So Buddha's activities in the world are supermundane, meaning they are not mundane purposes to benefit something on the temporary level, and then he's got nothing in the long term. But it's not. His supermundane path comes from his enlightenment, and therefore it shows the path of virtuous action, engaging in the virtuous way for beginners, for those on the earth, and then those who are in higher realms like formless realm, they are engaged in the deep meditative concentration, and then those who reach higher than that, like those in the formless realm, they do the limitless contemplation of the formless ones. So all the three realms, desire realm, form realm, formless realm, Buddha is able to show the way leading from the material desire realm to the form realm, meditative concentration realm, and the limitless contemplation of the formless realm. So in this way, the Buddha activity is actually affect beings in all three realms of existence. Of course, we often say that it's much better to be born as a precious human than in the Deva realms. But these Devas actually have access to the Buddha activities. So if some of them may not be very, very ripe or very matured for various decadent reasons in which they are distracted, but those who actually have the right temperament, they become much more exposed to the teachings, and therefore deepen and boost their meditative concentration, like the 8 samadhis in the form and formless realm, and slowly then reaching to the peak of the universe, and then reach the realization that is unique to the formless realms. So Buddha is the the cause of all of this. So therefore, this now concludes the fourth. This concludes the actual seventh Vajra. Seventh Vajra is enlightened activities. So now what remains here is the chapter 4. Chapter 5 is the benefit. Chapter 5 is not explicitly under any of the seven Vajra points, because 7 Vajra points concludes here with the verse number 376. The remaining verses that we have to go are the benefit of these 7 Vajra points. So which we will go next time. We will stop there, but I will do the reading of the root text as a part of the oral transmission, so you can meditate on whatever you can reflect on the meanings and preciousness of this text we have been studying. So Namo Ayala Gedan Ledan Jing Drugum Dadami Genamda and Rawa Gunja Tomje Dage Jodan do the Dage Delen and then Anzujedo Sheba Mejasadin Peda Laro Javanja Nawa den Jundayan Doba Meja Yova Me Deda Mejasadena Tunji and Yeva Tejan Tezo Meja Tezo Yendengomba Razala Zozanje Sendan Bejadan Chabadan Jingbadan Jobadan Zimbada Simbada Jolana Zonzevajan, Shiva Juno Zumbada, Mizunian Brajajova, Chundun number Nazodan, Zeva Zinda Jimbaja, Samjanam Jintonga, the Donian Dendeba, Sanjin Zeroja, the Juyandalan and the Berkomboda, Nawadin, Jundaya, Dome Yoa Mebanye, the Dana Jidana, Dunjim, Dunjibin and Yavan and then Razanavaja, so Jim, the Dana Sudan, the Dalan and Doyan, Rimjet and Dolan, then take one that Neban. Nange Dambo Chugo de Ishimigan, Tomaranjo, Jeda Sagon, and Yandra, Jimin, Salano, Yende, Tedaban and Yamjo, Dajetan, and Ladonazo, Dawa. Laya Soja de Simjera and then Alaya Mendonjo, the Congo Janian, Doba Jibedola, Jabba, Permejo members, Medolas on Tomada, Taba, Mendria, Semlana, 2 top judge, Gesem Denja, Senam, Dejan Semra Gibranjo, Chesem Bendrusa, Yazamala, Lama Luigi Sunian, Nawada, the Gendras and Sayazamala, Tuba Wambo, Kuyazunian, there was Union, Janyomeda, Nomera Zema, Benjuge. Chidana Sunanda, the Yudan Jimeda, Chidalana Lana, when you go to and Beda Neda, Izuda, number of Mission, Medadunga, Dameda, Shiveda, Pameja, Lana, Yandaya, Chujing Ayakuja, the Yen Captain Bezo, Radan Roa Moleba, Sanje Sunge James, the Gandanam children, the Chidalana Lanam Yang, other Rangera. The Yinjik Dentubage, Sumarangele, Bene Samdan, Beneluda, Samdrave, Dadej, the Yimbezo, Andave, Jude Jiva de Braje, Zela, Ronanga, Mijik, Yibanye, Yamo, Yudun Jude, Lame, Bunja Zamasawa, the Yinjik Dentana, some days Lazo, Jujuma, Semjin, Yamo, Donga, Ramjan, Shiva, Lame, Namzanja, Kanje, Compagnie, the Bende Pendejo Zonda, Tejo, La Zeje, Sienam, Jeba, Lanem, Juan, Lane, Lying a Jamba, Sajan, number, Sanjang, Adan Korway, Sawanjik, Lane, Lay, Senior Yawama, the Baming, Borwa Jibedo, Tujeda, Yinamju, Nanji, Anja, Donga Merashi, Tundunja, Lane, Zeji, Yawan Giz, Yawan Senior, Semna Gobanjura, Semna Goba, Pavanjiveda, Tujeda, the Yinshik Bezon, things in Semdo number. Donald Malu, Jidan
Kamsoya, Lada Sane, Deva Kanamba, Denama, Lunjik, de Kamnawa, Ingi Lam, Rabdu Domranje, Starnawa Tandra, Tandra, Tramojan, Mignonda, Tamja Lai, Nawada, Lanam, Nalam Dunu, Mindroji, Tijin, Chura Chodan, Shimu Ijin, Nimo Meji, Yangashi, Nimonia Jimanga, Navalam Dunjo, Zeryaji to Dana, Lodopon, Zobeju, Pombo Memeda, Sala Jundun Bebat, Tijin to Jeledan, Javatam Juja, and Drove Goel, Lodonio, number Doba Mebe, Chidan gave Lamjuna, Juji, Longi Chuji, and Bebada, Tijin Zedan, Dragon Beje, Sanjin, let them Java, Sila Jena, Zejan Jua, Menjimego Namge, Neba, Tingzins, Tingin Sunju, Jimmy Boje, Tuan Jene, gave Lodonju, Chidar Sita, Shimtan, Jambada, Young Vision, Jena Tumbo, Sala Pazala, Zone, Deva, Tijin Mamboro, Ninja, Tijin Pavilion, like Jicha, Ravia Jimbele, and Drove Eugene, Yawale, Namba Mamburo, Dan Temperature, Tiba Chola, Tanwa, Parmatan, and Danway, Pumbosum, Meda, Majadan, Yedanda, Chidran Meban, Meda, Minga Giva, Chadanda, Yaze Sala, Chambabane, Yedanam Gentuba, Ninja Genzo, Chuju, Juju, Majon, Wale, Chondo Bala, Chola, Danwenji, Dana Benyan, take Baram Bedon Zedan, and Doje Men Babana, Soja Tata, Resus on Wadala, Chidr, Gentleman Tatan Jazeri, Suji Jambadan, Zeve, Yamon Dajur, Dade Banya Dala, Namgun Devame, Corbe Jejo, Toma Med, and Revelam, Nambanga, Mezanwala, Jima Majin, Jongadan, and Dewame, Teyedunga, Daudum, Yazala of Jereja, Tuji, let them do Chajan, Chajan, Terra, Shijera, Dumbe, Lala Mibo, Chila, Lala Chibo, Milayon, Yonzo, Donga, Shijo, Dobeje, Shera, Demba, Lami, Wanju, Chola, number de Mede, Sheradan, the Jinshik, Sura, Tebe, General, Dine Dongandi, Dine Dongandi, Dine Goje, Jebe, Nene, Shija, Niji, Banjala, Dene, Toza, Mene, Dembra Chawad, Donga, Yudan, Tengo, Bade, the Yella, Banja, Sheja, Riberchation, Dembra, Samba, Nene, Java, Major, Lane, and Tamja, Nawa, Meme, Domba, the Gentoba, Jujele, Java, Mebe, Gangon, Gandenam, Beme, Jua, Dan, Domranza, Chidar Santa Shama, Shaman, Mion, Donga, Zume, Lana, Jindon, Tendon, Dula, Banja, the Jin, Gula, Major, then come to Gandin, Tendon, Tendon, Jama, Megunja, Gunjera, Molamta, Lanam Jin, and gave it to Chidar Samba, Meme, Ranjun, Good, the Yen, Podan, Lumjudam, Yen. Bodanlujo Damda Yabje Shajeda, Gero Bada, Wemberjudan, Dujanda, Chanju Jenny, Shivedon, Lamda, Namda, Dene, Tubakame, Miguel, Lamenju, Chidreni Medun, Tujixenela, Bezo Sanji, Bezo Jeda Gumodan, Razova, Chuji, Jeda Zumbe, Yundenda, La, Nima, Domen, Paveni, Chidrenima, Dome, Baran, Oji, Jobaye, Bema Jebra Jeba, Shenda Mibra Jeba, Tijan Shibaye, Nima Damjo, Zerda, Duje. Bemala, number Doba, Mebranjo, Choda Sugi, Godage, Janjo Nimbo Kajabe, Nimon, Gonyan Mandrova, Yeze Boranze, Kanjin Duja Daba, Chuen, and Tamjala, the Yinim, the Padameva, Dado Damja Java, Chuen, and Namge, Sanjan Namge, Sanjan Yimekidone, Rola Chidra, Bamba, Chidra Jajan was a Don and Nijan, Jidan Gona, Nava Generim, Chodan Parama, Member, Relamba de Jen, Javanima, Jola, Rimjeba, Shinguni Majid, Nimalame, Mijimunga, Shijet, and Dumbami, Tujedan, Nazol, Nazo Dajan, Dojaji, Savadan, and Rola Shijet, and the Sanje John, the Sanje John, the Shik, the Midam in them by Giwana, Tonji, and Toza Dona, Noada, Demogeno, Sebe, Jazodon, Bejeba, Nam, Sanje, Vijana, Mandon by Nendonda, the Zim, Jinova, Doba Megan, Juyanela, Nebana, some go so dobraje, Tijera, Dena Samba Namje, Jedania, Nazo Jena Dojeba, Tene de la Nando, Meda Juner, and Jedomen, Beba, Meba Sheba, Meba, Rebraje, Tijan Tuban Beme, Chidabane, Shinjedon, Zido, Jezeba, the Juba, Kanji Jazolan, Neba de la Jidon, Wuzambon, the Jindrova, Shindogamen, Yamome, Yinda, the Jindonwa, Nega Jedrava, Chidrajani, Shinji number Jawada, Namdo Major Someba, Chidan Nangi Minamla, the Jinti Shibas, Shinji number number Namdo Major, Chidan Nala Nebai, Jose Major, Nawame, Migba Major, Demeba, Miguel Lamle Rabdeba, Sumetendo Demba, Kala Chidra Todan, Toyadan and Dema, the Yentamja Sanja Don, Toyadan, the Dame, Chidra Sale Givago, Tome Sale Denan, Bewadan, Javan, the Yen Zobes Angela, Namdo Meba, Demane, and Revegeva Dawana, Maluban, and Bewara Juru. So we will stop there. If you have some question or comments, please feel free to do that. We have a bit of time. It doesn't have to be anything technical. Whatever you wish to raise, share, ask, please feel free to do that.
Rinpoche, when we're encouraged to reflect on impermanence, is it better to reflect just on one's own impermanence or that of everyone?
I don't know whether you heard this question. Jamyangla's question is it when we reflect on impermanence, is it important, is it okay just to reflect on the impermanent things that we have gone through, or it is also better useful to reflect on the impermanence of others? So that's the question. What do you think? Because if sometimes people when they think of all the impermanent things in their life, they do not cope very well. They wish that things weren't changing so fast, or things weren't changing in the direction that has been changing. But maybe it's good to be able to meditate on the how transient many people's lives are, how powerful become weak, how rich become poor, how people who have influence have no influence, how harmonious people become disharmonious, how wealthy people become poor. And so how many people with many household members are now left with only one or two. And so when we reflect on those other people's impermanence that we have seen or heard or know, then this is why all the analogies are very useful when we talk about Buddha. When Kisa Gotami comes to the Buddha talking about her loss of the child death, Buddha instructed her, and he was very skillful. He didn't say, it's not just you should see how many people have lost their loved ones. He instead says, okay, yeah, I can help to restore your dead child, but so long as you are able to go and get the right materials, and then Buddha says you have to go and get the master seed from a family where death has not occurred. So he was very skillful, wasn't he? He was basically saying you should go and meditate on how many people have lost so many people and go through a lot of impermanence. And he didn't say that. He just said, yes, we can revive your child, but you have to go and find this master seed from a home where death has not occurred. So you can see how Buddha has skillfully taught her to involuntarily meditate on the impermanence that others have gone through. So by doing so, then she realized this is happening to everyone. So for me to have lost this child is not a personal, that's not an unprecedented tragedy. This happens to everyone. Everybody dies. And everybody experience a loss. So this shows that meditating on the impermanence of other sentient beings will be very useful, so that we make positive comparison and to therefore not only accept our impermanence things of ourselves, but also reduce attachment with even those things we have. That maybe we have good
good health, maybe we have good relationship, we have good situations or freedom or whatever. But when you meditate on those people who are losing those things, other people's impermanence, then we realize I too will experience this loss or death or parting or helplessness happen, and they will not come as a shock to you later on, because you are able to meditate on you are able to see how many people, like today we hear all these hundreds of people were killed in the earthquake in Indonesia, and not to mention how many people plunge in the bus into the ravines in Pakistan or various places in the world, how many people are bombed by the war. When you think of those things, we realize, I should start living more carefully and meaningfully, and I should practice, I should do good, I should help others, I should not be just thinking of me or my difficulties. So you can see that thinking of the impermanence of others enables us to make positive comparisons, and then that's why the Samadhi Raja Sutra says, Chitra promotion melamna popo chushin shiwa tendone, chuna gaja shena megawa, chunam tamje tedre sheparkis, just as a young girl, who dreams of getting married, and then in the marriage she becomes very happy to meet a young boy, and they fall in love, and then in that very dream she becomes pregnant to a young baby, and then she gives the birth to baby, and then she dreams that dies, and then she was very happy one moment giving birth and getting married, another moment she dreams that the child died, and so then it says consider all things are likewise. So it means your life too is likewise. Maybe you haven't married yet, or maybe you will never marry, or maybe you won't have a child, or little become happy because you really wish you're really happy you never married because you don't want to marry. So whatever kind of things happened in your life that you often people find very difficult to cope with it, one should think, this happened to so much. Look at the young girl. So this is not just to me. So you universalize the impermanence rather than over-personalize that to oneself. Yeah, so we need to universalize the impermanence, not personalize. Yeah, he saw the Dalai Lama makes the Tibetan feel, he said, we lost country. You think we are the only refugee? He said, no, we are not the only refugee. He said, many people, millions and millions of people died under World War I, World War II. During this, we didn't even hear one gunshot in Tibet because we were so unaffected by the world, because we were so far from everywhere else, but then when we experience during the communist invasion, we may feel it's too bad, and we think that's terrible, But he tried to console the Tibetans and said, look, others' life has been much more worse than this, So he tried to console people, saying that we are not only the refugee, there are many other refugees who's gone through many terrible times, and so likewise, I suppose being able to think like that embolden us or makes us a little bit more accepting the universality of suffering. Because the fact that the impermanent is very good to meditate on is it enables us that even pleasure or youth or health or whatever you have, these things are all impermanent. So don't get attached to them. So the loss of the things are not suffering. Your attachment to them, it is. So you don't have to wait to lose them. You're already suffering when you have them. So what's the difference difference will make when you lose them? It was suffering anyway, even to keep them. So, because the impermanence and the universality of suffering is always. It's not that sometimes you have a little bit of pleasure and there's no suffering at all. According to Buddha Dharma, there are three types of suffering. Suffering of change, and all-pervasive conditioning suffering. We don't even know the whole pervasive conditioning suffering is the worst suffering. And this is the idea of clinging to self and the aggregate as me and mine. These kind of suffering. People have food, people have company, people have everything. They're not starving, they're not hungry, they have everything, but they are suffering because they think they are a body. And then they look at the body becoming old or whatever, then they get sad. Oh, that's the suffering. Suffering is mainly, worst suffering is all pervasive conditioning. But all pervasive conditioning is impermanent. It's to know it's impermanent as impermanent shouldn't be shocking. Because we are denying things are impermanent, things will die. So we are making the suffering worse by denying things are impermanent. Buddha is saying everything is impermanent because they are impermanent. But we are trying to say, trying to remain as things are never changing and things are staying the same. And people say to each other when they see, oh, you have changed, it's a shock. Or, when you see someone change, we think it's a shock, I thought you loved me, they say. And then the person no longer loves you, and then you think you have changed, you have betrayed me. But if you know impermanence, it's not betrayal, it's just impermanent. So you will think you don't over-personalize how the person treated you to feel betrayed. In Buddhism, you don't say that. Everything is impermanent anyway. So it's just not being able to accept impermanent is the cause of suffering. And because you are not able to consider everything is impermanent, then your loss of something is like you are robbed or you are betrayed or something. So your suffering is caused by not knowing everything is impermanent. And so, Tsulmin Yiji, we call it, erroneous beliefs. Erroneous belief cause us suffering. So therefore, thinking of the prevalence of impermanence of all things is the medicine, is a preventative medicine. When things do change, when things do kind of go pear-shaped, you do not get pear-shaped. One thing is already pear-shaped. We don't need to go. You say, oh, my mother died. I have to go. Others were mourning and groaning, and somebody died, but the person she died. I have to go. So it's just a dead body. Basically, we are basically a dead body that's trying to act as though we are alive. So what's the point of feeling sad to the log that has fallen on the floor? The log always is on the floor anyway, particularly when it is felled. We just our question is how soon we are felled. we already the wind the last couple of days. It looks like all the trees going to fall down. We are all moving logs. It's just question is how soon we will fall down. So everything is impermanent. Very good. Everything is impermanent. Wouldn't make you shock. You wouldn't say you did this to me. You did. Everything is impermanent. So that's it. And you also just learn to let go. When you know everything is impermanent, you can let go. Otherwise, you have lost. You have suffered. People suffer because they don't know everything is impermanent. If you know everything is impermanent, Buddha said, you are blessed by the Buddhas. Blessed are the ones who think of impermanent, they call it. Buddha didn't say the blessed are the ones who see me. He said, blessed are the ones who think of impermanence because they see me by thinking everything is impermanent. So the pertinent teaching. Even if we wait for 2 hours in a queue and to see the Buddha, and then we want to have a personal advice, Buddha would say, think of impermanence, my dear. That is your timeless instruction, how to live, how to be, and how to let go.
Rinpoche, I had one question.
Yes, Carolyn, please go ahead.
It was just, you mentioned that there were 18 texts that are usually studied by monastics and scholars.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if you could say, like, what the reason is, or what these texts are, and sort of how they, what is articulating.
Oh, you mean what are the 18 texts, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might be a question for now, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I can bring the whole list next week. Yeah, but mostly they are divided into these four, I think, 4 or 5. One is Madhyamika, the middle way. There are 3 texts for the middle way. One is Mula Madhyamika, which is Nagarjuna's root verses. Another is Chandrakirti's Madhyamika Avatara. That is the commentary on by Chandrakirti on Nagarjuna's root verses. Then the third one is the Chatushataka. Chatushataka is 400 verses by Aryadeva. So those 3 are the 3 most, we call Tsanjuk Shisum. Tsa means Mula Madhyamika, Juk is Uman Jukpa, Ji is Shigyapa, which is 400 verses by Aryadeva. So Nagarjuna, Chandrakirti, Aryadeva, each of them wrote one text on Madhyamika. So Madhyamika, there are these 3 texts. And then you have those are the 3 most important texts that at least come straight away in my head. Then there is Abhidharma. The Abhidharma has 2 texts. Abhidharma Kosha. Abhidharma Kosha is the higher Abhidharma. And then the lower Abhidharma Samuchaya. Abhidharma Samuchaya and Abhidharma itself, both are very much studied in the Theravadan tradition as well. I don't know whether they attributed to Vasubandhu or not, but in the Tibetan tradition, the Abhidharma itself is attributed to Vasubandhu. Abhidharma Samuchaya has a little bit of a mixed story. So that's Abhidharma. So Abhidharma got 2 texts, and the middle way got 3 texts. That's the 5. Then you have Perfection Wisdom text. Perfection Wisdom text is the Abhisamaya Alankara, which is the so this Perfection Wisdom text is the one which also includes the five texts by Maitreya or Asanga. So of which this particular Uttaratantra Shastra is the one. One is Abhisamaya Alankara. Abhisamaya Alankara is a Perfection Wisdom text, and this text is the Uttaratantra Shastra, primarily on Buddha nature, and then the third one is Mahayana Sutra Alankara. Mahayana Sutra Alankara is that mainly this has about 26 chapters. This is a Mahayana Sutra. These are all by Asanga. And then the other text is Madhyanta Vibhanga and the Dharmatta Vibhanga. So the Asanga and Maitreya has 5 texts. Yeah. So the Asanga and Maitreya text is called 5 texts. On 5 texts plus the other 5 we mentioned, that's 10. And then on top of that, then there is a text by Vinaya Sutra. Vinaya Sutra is a Vinaya text. So there's two Vinaya texts. The other one I can't remember. Those two. So these 18 texts I'm referring to is mainly according to Sakyapas. Sakyapa lists 18 texts. Others only list 6 volumes, which includes what I have already mentioned. Others lineages like Gelugpa, they will talk about six big volumes. 6 big volumes constitute all the things I have just mentioned, and then. In addition to those 12 texts, are like the various other texts concerning the Buddhist vows, the classification of Buddhist vows. So these are 13 I can remember tonight. If you need the rest of the list, I can bring them to next. I can bring them. One is the Graduate Path to Enlightenment by Podong Penjen Cho. There are 2 or 3 texts by Tibetan scholars out of the 18. The rest of them are all Indian texts, Indian Mahasiddhas. So mainly Nagarjuna, Chandrakirti, Ayadeva, and then Shantideva's Bodhisattva's way of life. Sorry, that's the one. Shantideva's Bodhisattva's way of life is another one. So that's Shantideva. So there's 14 or 15 texts there. I don't know. I can't remember the other 3. Then they're not really significantly very important. Those I mentioned usually covers all the 6 volumes. The 6-volume concept is talked among the Kagyus and Gelugpa. Sakyapa talk of 18 texts because Sakyapa being most scholarly tradition, they have much more authors and the authors like Sakya Pandita, who himself wrote the classification of the 3 vows, which is a very, they call Sakyapa's Bob Wire. Bob Wire. because it's such a critical text on talking about other people's different scholars and different traditions way of practicing Pratimoksha, Bodhisattva and Vajrayana vows. He's very critical of everybody. Everybody who reads it find it very, very hard to accept because he's very critical of all the former scholars. So some people call it the Sakya Pandita's Bob Wire. So the 18th text is not well known among the other traditions, but some scholars who have really studied the Sakya lineage, they will also know. Mostly it's the Sakyapas who talk about 18 texts, but others just talk about 6 volumes. So few of the other texts that I couldn't remember, I will try to come back next week. Thank you.
There's a question in the chat.
Yeah? Okay, the question. Yeah, Kathy is asking the same thing, she says. Is it? Verse number 375. Yeah. 375 is he is like an echo that rises through the causes and conditions. He's unlike the space that is not basis of the goodness. Yeah. And space is pervasive, but space is not the basis of all the goodness. Space is the basis of all animate, inanimate objects, but it is not the basis of the goodness of the people. Goodness. So that whereas Dharmakaya is the basis of the goodness of everything, not just animate, inanimate things, but all this very enlightened qualities of them. Yeah. I think
Hope that answers that question. Hello, anyone else have a question on Facebook? Please feel free to type. Hello, Linda. Hello, Sylvia, all the way from Kuching. Nice to see you all. Okay, everyone, thank you very much. So we'll conclude there tonight, and please do the dedication of merits from our small effort for the very troubled world, which has so many difficulties going through. May all these things will be allayed and dissolve by impermanence. Things are changing, but some changes are not happening as quickly. But a lot of good initiatives are happening on the background. I believe there's a lot of talking and bringing peace initiatives going on. Hopefully this will bring to some peace in those troubled world by our dedicating these Ara Bodhicitta and blessings of the Dharma that we try to understand, we try to learn. So with this we do the dedication merit. Thank you very much, everyone. Da deva penzage honeza me ale perero bel from the oceana padare senada herenda Mahayana deje vadeva merera haga mehobe Pekastela to the Mahayana deje kareje manju shenevode asama tabara de la follow ode example Aisha de de mer salam bodhicitta teba veranaya rasa has been bomed freely the general. Thank you.